how to maximize your muscle gains. Hey, what's happening? This is Isai Rodriguez, host of the Transformation Podcast, where I cater to the professional working man, 40 and above, who's looking to make positive changes to his health, lose weight, and become stronger overall through simple lifestyle changes. I'm here to share inspiration, tips, and proven lessons that I've personally learned and lived through in my 40 plus years on this here beautiful blue planet. So today we'll be tackling the discussion of how to maximize your muscle gains. And listen, health and fitness goals are easier to achieve than you might think. First and foremost, it's all about getting your mind straight right from the get-go. And so I've got a freebie for you called the 10 Transformation Mind Hacks that'll help you whip your mind into shape so that you can turn around and whip your body into shape. If that sounds good to you, then get on over to podcast.transformation.com/mindhacks right now to get your freebie today and start using these 10 hacks to exercise consistently and create the real and lasting results that you're truly after and that you absolutely deserve. That's podcast.transformation.com/mindhacks. Again, that's podcast.transformation.com/mindhacks. Be in the know starting right now. And so, with that being said, let's get right into the show. All right, baby. I am so pumped up right now. I am so fired up. I just got back earlier this week. I just got back from Vegas, where I was at this insane fitness convention where I learned so much good stuff there this weekend as far as, exercise techniques and different concepts and, everything from stretching to weightlifting to suspension training to breathing. There's a proper way to align your body when you're breathing. So a lot of these little tips and knowledge and education that I've gotten over the week or over this convention, I've got tons of notes. I've got slides, I've got videos, I've got so much information to share with you, and I will be leaking that out to you slowly via this podcast and, certain blog posts that I make to my site. So yeah, I'm psyched up. I had such a great time. I met with the one and only Billy Blanks, creator of the Taibo workout. That was insane. I've got some, some pictures with him. I got to talk with him. I got to shake his hand. The dude is genuine. He is. If anybody, if you don't know who Billy Blanks is, Google him. He was huge. He's still huge in the fitness industry. I'm pretty sure anybody that is remotely related to the fitness industry, anybody around it, like really serious about fitness, if you name Billy Blanks, I'm certain that they will know who it is that you're talking about. This dude, again, he is real. He is hardcore. He is also 60-something years old, and he kicked my motherfucking ass during a live workout. I had so much fun. That was great. What else is popping this week on the Transformation Podcast? So you've probably, I made this announcement last episode that I was changing up the format a bit, and I'm planning on bringing in, hopefully bringing in some, some trainers, nutritionists, maybe some doctors, influencers, things like that, so that I can interview them, pick their brain. I wouldn't say live. Maybe eventually we'll get to the live part, but I want to interview them and literally pick their brain and hear what they have to say. And maybe we can collaborate a little, but I want to do that and bring that to you so that we can both benefit mutually, like the stuff that they're doing right now, what's working for them right now, what they're seeing in the industry right now, what's working health-wise, what's working wellness-wise, what's working fitness-wise, in their business, in their industry, finding out what they're doing to build their business, finding out what they're preaching, what they're putting out there in the fitness world, in the fitness arena, and all that good stuff. And yeah, so in order for me to do that, one of the biggest changes is to cut down the segments. So I initially had, healthy conversations, and then Mighty Man, we're gonna do away with that because again, like I mentioned in the last episode, there seems to be a little confusion, and I'm gonna take that upon myself that I guess maybe I'm not communicating well enough, and I'm working on that. I am definitely working on that because I would like to convey the information that I have in my head, in my notes, to you directly via my words. So I am working on that. In order to do that, I need to communicate better, apparently. So part of the confusion is the connection of the show name versus the content that's being provided. So sometimes it was a little not misguided, but it doesn't fully capture the essence of the show. So if I cut it down to one segment where I focus on the one topic per show, then that connection between show title, show name, and the content will be a little closer. Like it'll be tied together a little better. And so, yeah, that's the main idea. That's the gist. That's the point of the change. And I'm hoping that it helped both of us to educate each other or go along this journey of learning fitness and health and wellness and staying healthy and strong. Hopefully it helps both of us. So that being said, let's move into our meat and potatoes, as I'm calling it now, with how to maximize your muscle gains. So let's get right into it. When we talk about gaining muscle, it's no secret that exercise and proper nutrition are key. Not only that, but there's a lot of different factors that contribute to the rate of muscle gain. So we're talking about things like, your training experience, your sex, age, and the type of exercise that you do. And with all of these variables to consider, you might wonder how much muscle you can really gain in a month. Has that, have you ever thought about that? Literally, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how much muscle you can gain in a month, including how to get started and supplements that you should consider taking. So exactly how much muscle can you gain? Let's start with that question because I think it's a great question. And, if you're not considering this, if you're not thinking about this, then you're not really going to make any gains, because if you're not thinking about how much you can gain, that means that you're not going to be keeping track of it because it's not significant enough for you. And if you're not tracking your progress, then you will make no progress. You know what I mean? So for the most part, gaining muscle is a slow, gradual process. In fact, if you're looking for sizable results, then we're talking about years, not even months. Like if you're looking for those serious muscle gains, and we're talking about years, not months. Like you're going to be training for quite a bit of time. That being said, laying it out there, beginners and some intermediate lifters may be able to see some small changes after just a few months of intense training. So although it's nearly impossible to really determine exactly how much muscle you can gain in a month, there are studies that that can give you a really good idea. So one study in 30 college-aged men, not 30-year-olds, 30 college-aged men. So, lower 20s to mid 20s, I suppose. I think that was the actual number. So this study with these 30 college-aged men, they had previous training experience. And the study showed that, that they saw a 23% increase in one of the major leg muscles after 6 weeks of resistance training. Think about that. Now, it's kind of important to mention that, this recorded muscle growth was primarily due to increased storage of carbs in the body. There was also another smaller, older study that showed how the trainees had a 5.6% increase in muscle size after 21 weeks of strength training in 8 non-strength trained athletes. So this was a really small study, but the results were the same for all 8. And what they found was that these 8 strength trained athletes had less growth. So all 8 didn't have as much muscle growth as the people in in that first study with the 30 college-aged men. So basically, this means that the trainees with no prior strength training experience, that first group or that first study, they had a better chance for muscle gains than athletes with previous training experience. So go figure that. Now, the data is limited on exactly how much muscle you can gain in a month because it's not exactly easy to study athletes. Think about it. No professional coach is simply gonna hand over their athletes and say, sure, test away on my elite athletes. I need them to win this game so that I can get paid more, but I'm gonna allow you to do all these tests on these athletes. It's not gonna happen, you know what I mean? So that's part of the reason why it's typically hard to find research study data on professional athletes. So but from the limited data that it is on record at this moment, what it suggests is that short-term muscle growth is modest at best in natural athletes. So basically, new trainees will see more muscle gains in less time than trainees that have already been training. You know what I mean? Obviously, if you haven't been working out at all and then you start working out, you'll probably see more noticeable changes than if you were already working out, because if you're already working out, then you have to work out even harder. If you haven't been doing anything, then, any type of workout that you do, anything that you lift, you will feel results. You know what I mean? So, the question now is, well, then how do we get started? Where do we start? That's the question. So when you're looking to, gain muscle fast, there's a few things you can focus on to get the most efficient results. One of the most important factors you should focus on is intensity, the actual how intense your workouts are, because ideally you'll want to aim for high intensity resistance so that some type of exercise that falls into the 8 to 12 rep range. So we're talking about compound movements, exercise like different types of squats, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, the snatch, and the clean and jerk movements. These exercises work multiple muscle groups at the same time. So, they really improve the efficiency of your workout because they're working multiple muscles at the same time. So you get a better, more efficient workout. You get more bang for your buck, as they say. And actually, that actually stimulates more muscle growth or stimulates the growth of muscle more effectively. You know what I mean? Now, on top of these basic compound exercises, You want to make sure you add several different isolated exercises to target specific muscle groups. So where compound exercises hit multiple muscles, with the isolated exercises, you target one muscle group at a time. This gives you maximum potential for muscle growth and really stimulates them into action. It really gets them going. And while we're talking about stimulating your muscles, it's important to understand how cardio fits into your routine when it comes to muscle gains. And the reality is that cardio exercise is great and super important for your overall health, but it doesn't really play a huge or major role in muscle gain. So in order for you to build muscle, you basically need to be lifting heavy weights, period. That's pretty much it. You'll also want to eat more calories than what you burn, because you're trying to put on a little muscle weight, and the muscle feeds on energy, and that energy comes from food. So you're going to need more calories than what you actually burn. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that's just how your body works, period. Now, not only that, but the amount of protein that you eat has to be higher than the amount of carbs that you take in. That's another nutritional key. So basically, if you're looking for muscle growth, then cardio won't really help you, because ultimately it's just not gonna add a single gram of muscle to your body, like to your frame. The best way to burn fat and build muscle at the same time is by making sure that you're hitting all of the right muscle groups with each workout, making that efficient, making your workouts getting the most bang out of your buck for each workout that you do. It's easy to overtrain your muscles by focusing too much on, in one area. So you need to be conscious of this, And so in order to do this, what I suggest is using compound movements, again, like squatting, deadlifting, benching, pull-ups, chin-ups, the overhead presses, rows and lunges, kettlebell swings, barbell curls, like all that good stuff. That way you're working multiple muscle groups and building muscle at the same time. Efficiency, baby, efficiency. So you definitely want to get some cardio into your routine simply for the health benefits, but if your ultimate goal is to put on muscle, then you don't want to be running marathons or anything like that. You're going to want more muscle activating exercises and less cardiovascular exercises. It's that simple, and as I usually suggest, you may find it helpful to consult a certified trainer to help you put together, an exercise program that works just for you. And I have a great recommendation if you're looking for a trainer that's ready to work closely with you right now to reach your goals. Let me know. Reach out and I'll get that info for you ASAP. Just send a quick message to isai@diasplanation.com and I'll forward you some information on the trainer that I recommend. But that being said, all that being said, let's not forget about proper nutrition. This is another critical component of gaining muscle quickly. So if you're not getting the right nutrition into your body, then how do you expect to get the right performance out of your body, right? Think about that for a second. Are you still with me? Great. So what I found works best are some general recommendations that I got from formal training way back in the day. So for the best results, it's recommended that you eat 10 to 20% more calories than your total daily energy expenditure. So the total amount of energy that you're putting out per day, you want to eat 10 to 20% more calories than that. You know what I mean? So what does this mean, right? Like, are you scratching your head right now? Like, what the heck does all of that mean? Well, hello. What this means to you specifically is that you should aim to consume slightly more calories than what you burn, right? Because here's the thing. Gaining muscle is an energy expensive process. It takes a lot of energy to put on muscle mass. You know what I mean? Because you need to lift weights, and that's a lot of explosive energy that you need to do. You need to your body needs to repair itself. That takes energy too. So you need more energy coming in than what your body needs to get through the day. You understand? So, and where do we get this energy from? It's food, of course. It's what we put into our body. This is most often referred to as bulking, and sometimes accomplished by using a clean or a dirty approach, depending on your dietary choices and the amount of time for the entire muscle building process you have available to you. And here's the thing is that people who don't eat enough protein have a harder time gaining muscle. And since protein is the major building block of muscle tissue, then to keep your muscles at the peak performance, like to keep them at their peak performance potential, it's important for you to make sure that you're getting enough protein, period. It's recommended that you shoot for a protein intake of about anywhere between 0.7 to 1 gram. So 0.7 of a gram to 1 gram, anywhere in that range. You're looking to get that amount per pound of body weight that you have. That's the general recommendation by the book. But what I've learned from this year's fitness convention is that what the book says versus what actually works in real life are two totally different things. So what I ultimately suggest is this. If you're serious about making some good muscle gains and you've already consulted with a personal trainer, talk to them. Talk to them about what their thoughts are on protein intake for the amount of work that they're giving you, because depending on your specific goals, that recommendation of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that might be totally wrong for you. That's a good recommendation if you have no other input. You can go by that recommendation, but ultimately you want to talk to a professional and get that specific amount that they recommend for you and your body, your weight, dependent on the type of workout that they're giving you to do at the gym. You know what I mean? So, and if you need any type of nutritional guidance, again, reach out to me. I'll get you in contact with the right people that'll get you on the fast track to bulking like a pro. Let me know, Isai at dietsplanation.com, and I'll get that information for you ASAP. So now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, let's talk about the different populations out there and how they should be training for max muscle growth. And we're going to talk about a few, and you can kind of fit where it is that you are and who you are into one of these groups and take that information accordingly, So, one of the main factors in the rate of muscle gain is your training age. This concept of your training age, or how long it is that you've been training. Two other important things to consider are your age and your sex, which can also greatly affect the muscle building in your body. We'll be focusing more on the men because, after all, this is the Dadsplanation podcast, right? That's so. Anyway, let's start with the beginners. So people that have not been training at all, for all that long, when you're just getting started with strength and hypertrophy, like those types of training, then or muscle building training, you have the greatest potential for muscle growth and reaching those goals if you're a beginner. We talked about this towards the beginning of the show, and this is simply because training in your life is a new stimulus. It's brand new to your body. So, as your muscles are worked, growth happens naturally in order to prepare you for future training. You know what I mean? So, and now that being said, muscle growth is still limited to the initial stages of resistance training. Most of your strength gains are due to neural adaptations. So it's in your head, it's in your brain. These connective pathways, that's your brain learning and understanding how the movement works under load. Like that's where the biggest gains are, because you start incorporating all these other muscle groups for, stabilizing and lifting and all this stuff, pushing, pulling. This means that as you train, your brain gets better at recruiting muscle fibers that contract and extend and things like that during a particular exercise. So if you're a beginner to resistance training, you're unlikely to see any sizable muscle gains, in your first month of training. Like you're not going to explode out of nowhere, even if you're gaining strength, so you will be, or you should be getting stronger. You're gonna feel like the weights are getting stronger, but you're not gonna visibly see muscles in your first month of training. So this means you'll be getting stronger from a muscle perspective, but that strength doesn't necessarily translate into actual muscle expansion or muscle growth, because again, you may be hitting or working that bicep, but there's a lot of other muscles that need to be trained in order for you to start really seeing those muscle gains, However, if you stick with it, you will eventually see your muscles expand and your strength will continue to increase. So if you're a newbie, the best way to build muscle is to do a lot of reps at low weights. Start with sets of 12 to 15 reps at 50% of your 1 rep max. So if you don't know what your 1 rep max, it really is what that means. You do 1 rep and see how heavy you can go. So if you start, let's say, a bicep curl, if you start with 10, then you do 15, then you do 20, and then you just go all the way up 1 rep until you can't do that bicep curl anymore. And whatever that max is, what's 50% of it? That's where you start. Do 12 to 15 reps of that 50% mark of your 1 rep max. And as your strength improves, as you get stronger, you can slowly add more weight each week. That's how you progress. For most beginners, doing a full body workout will be sufficient. You should focus on your chest, your back, your shoulders, and legs. That's it. Build that up. Those are the fundamentals. Get that out of the way. Build that up, and then you move on to the intermediate phase. And now, how about intermediates? These are the people who have been training consistently for at least a year. And by consistently, we're talking about 3 to 4, at least 3 times a week, preferably more, for a year. That's what we're talking about here. They've got the fundamental movements down to a science almost, At this point in time, like you can move forward towards the intermediate phase of training. This tends to be where, trainees spend the most time, with a lot of people or some people never really progressing onto the advanced phase. During the late beginner and early intermediate training phase, you have the most potential for muscular growth. This is where you actually see muscle gains, like visibly, your muscles start to take on nice shape. You clearly can lift more weights. You're more defined. You have more shape, things like that. This is the point in your journey when you've moved past the neural adaptation phase that we talked about earlier with the beginning phase. Basically your muscle memory is pretty good at this point, and you can consistently do the moves most of the movements well enough, and so you're stimulating a significant amount of muscle growth. If this is you, then cheers to you. You're doing great, and you're on the road to becoming an advanced trainee. This intermediate phase is pretty consistent. You just have to keep hitting it and improving your strength. Keep hitting it and improving your strength. Week in, week out, day in, day out. Workout after workout after workout. Just keep hitting those weights. Keep improving, and you will eventually get to the advanced trainee stage. And so that leaves us with the advanced training stage, or the advanced trainees. So the advanced phase of training takes a good amount of time and effort to reach. We're talking about at least 2 years for even the most gifted athletes. You know what I mean? So if you are a gifted athlete, we're looking at least 2 full years of intense training, as we were talking, getting through that intermediate phase. At this point, most trainees have reached most of their muscle and strength gains, and new muscle mass is pretty hard to come by. We talked about that earlier. It becomes a little bit more difficult to actually put on muscle weight. Not impossible, just a little bit more difficult. Because in order to make any type of gains as an advanced trainee, it usually requires advanced training techniques, that are specifically made for maximal muscle stimulation. And even in the best case scenario, like natural advanced trainees, like they may not see more than a few pounds of muscle gain per year. And this reminds me of a story about Michael Jordan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's basically the greatest basketball player who ever lived. Sorry, Stephen Curry, I love you. Move over, LeBron James. With all due respect, R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan is the man. Will always be until further notice. At the moment, I should say, So anyway, I was watching the documentary The Last Dance about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls of the 1990s. Dating myself, I know. And there was an episode where Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson were talking, like they're discussing how Jordan needed to put on more muscle weight in order to be more of a physical player. He was going into these games and he was getting beat up by these bigger, more physical players, and he was like, I've had it. I've had enough of it. I need to put on more weight. I need to become more physical. I need to be stronger, to be more and more competitive. Then they fast forward in this episode. They fast forward through the off season, and they're showing him in the gym and how much work he was putting in, and how he was actually able to put on almost 20 pounds of pure muscle. And more importantly, they talked about how difficult it was for him to gain that weight. And that's what we're talking about. Think about that. A world-class athlete like Michael Jordan struggled to put on only 20 pounds of muscle. That's what we're talking about here. Once you get to this elite level, like to the advanced trainee stage, then it's gonna be hard to make significant gains. It's not that you can't. It's not that it's impossible, but it's more like for you to make serious gains or additional gains, you really have to push and make it happen. So anyway, just something to think about. But moving the conversation along, let's talk about the different demographics, more specifically men versus women versus older adults in general. So let's start with men, since again, this is primarily a show about distinguished older gentlemen like myself and yourself. In general, men have a few advantages over women when it comes to gaining muscle. According to both older and newer research, men tend to have larger, more numerous muscle fibers. Because of this, it allows for overall bigger muscle gains, and which leads to an increased potential of building strength. Obviously, More muscle that you have in your body, the more strength that you can pull out of those muscles. Not only that, but men have they have higher levels of testosterone. You knew that, right? This is the major male sex hormone that's responsible for manly characteristics like muscle development, key number one, right? Body hair, and the deepening of their voice. Excuse me. These two factors combine in men and allow us to gain more muscle than women over a month's time. It's just nature, it's how we're built. It's how the human body is engineered. Women are at a slight disadvantage when it comes to quick muscle and strength building due to genetic and hormonal differences. Emphasis on the word slight. I want that to stand out to you women, for the women who are listening to me out there, because with enough work and the right supplements, I've seen some very intimidating looking women. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It's not impossible if that's what you're after. You can certainly build up strength. You don't have to build up muscle, but if that's you, just know that it is possible. Might take a little bit more work, it doesn't come as natural to you, but it can be done. So that being said, women actually have an advantage over men, listen up, when it comes to exercise fatigue and recovery. So they're often able to handle more exercise volume and recover quickly, and this, I go through this all the time. So I work out with my wife. She does some dance fitness routines over Zoom. And, a lot of times she's going crazy, and I'm over here huffing and puffing, she's on fire and I'm struggling just to keep up. And it has nothing to do with, your physical abilities or anything like that. It's just that women have this natural ability to do more work and to recover better. And that's another thing. I'll be sore for quite a few days after these workouts, if and when I push hard enough. And in a day or two, she's okay. She's great. She's ready for another one. And I'm still I'm still rubbing my my glutes. I'm rubbing my shoulders, my abs, and she's ready to go. So listen to me when I tell you that I know from experience that women do, they are capable of more exercise volume, and that they are better at recovering from these exercise volumes. So this is mainly due, again, because of the higher levels of estrogen, one of the primary female sex hormones. It's thought to have a protective effect on, skeletal muscle, which gives them the ability to recover quicker and to sustain a higher exercise volume. So it is in your DNA, it's in your genetics, So basically, or maybe not genetics, but definitely the DNA. So basically, if even though men tend to gain muscle at a faster rate than women, women appear to recover from exercise more efficiently. It's just the way it is. Your body is engineered more like Wolverine's adamantium body. I don't know if that rings a bell with you guys, with you women, but I know for most of you guys, you know what I'm talking about. This is the fictional metal alloy that's bonded to Wolverine's body and skeleton. It's also what gives him this superhuman regenerative properties he's known for. So he can, if you're familiar with Wolverine, you know that he can take a bullet and he'll pass out for a second, but then his body just kind of repairs itself. It pushes the bullet out, and then he's back to he's living again. So women, this ability to handle more training volume over time and to recover quickly, you can totally use this to your advantage. Use what the good Lord gave you. You know what I mean? And how about older adults? Let's talk about them for a bit. How are they affected by muscle growth? Can they effectively put on muscle? That's a great question. Great questions. And here's what I found. First off, sarcopenia, which is a condition that leads to muscle and strength loss. This is one of the several factors associated with the aging process in both men and women, not just men, but older men and women, period. All of us. So fortunately, resistance training has been shown to slow down this effect or even slightly reverse the effect in older adults. So that's a good thing, you know what I mean? While the rate of muscle gain tends to be slower in the aging population, that doesn't mean that you can't reach any significant improvements in muscle strength and functional mobility. It's still very possible to become stronger and more mobile by getting involved in some strength training. What we have to keep in mind is that we need to remember how important it is to follow a regular exercise regimen that includes resistance training as you age. I can't stress this enough. This is super it is super important, And now let's talk about supplementation, Do supplements help? That's the question. The short answer is yes, they do, but it's a little more involved than just a yes or no answer. So while you're on your journey down muscle gain lane, you'll find plenty of supplements that may enhance your results, And while a lot of supplement companies and they claim that their products can help you pack on muscle quickly, only a few types of supplements can honestly say that they have extensive scientific data behind their claims, So this is a fact, There's plenty of supplements out there that are number one, You hear it all the time. You see it on television. You see it on social media. This product, this, whatever, is number one as per their website. But very few have actual scientific data behind it. So that being said, I have a very short list of some of these supplements for you to look into. First up is the tried and true All-American protein powder. And before I start getting all the colorful comments in my feed, no, protein is not exclusively American. I know I said All-American, but that's just because that's who I am. But, we do have a lot of variety, you know what I mean? That's for sure. But that being said, there are a lot of types of proteins that come in different isolated forms. So, we have milk proteins like whey or casein or plant proteins like pea and brown rice. So when you're looking to promote muscle gain, when you're trying to pack on the muscle weight, then getting enough protein is essential, And this is simply because it gives your body the essential building blocks necessary for skeletal muscle to grow. So what the experts are recommending is for you to get 20 to 40 grams of high quality protein per day. So what we're talking about here is protein that contains all the essential amino acids and that are easily digested within 2 hours of resistance exercise to get the most results with your muscle gains. That's what we're talking about. And let's go on the record here and say that protein powders aren't exactly necessary, you know what I mean? You have to think about them as a tool. Like they're an excellent tool to help you meet your daily protein intake needs, especially if you have trouble reaching those daily intake volumes through food alone. And who doesn't these days, shit. But besides protein, what else do we have, Good question, because think about this. We also have creatine. Creatine is another highly researched supplement shown to promote muscle gains by increasing exercise capacity during high intensity training. It's a super important player in your phosphocreatine system This system gives you energy for muscle contractions that last less than 15 seconds, such as, when you're sprinting or, complete a heavy lift. So basically think of all the explosive type of movements that require, a lot of energy in a short amount of time. So if you're wondering where you can find creatine, well, you can find it in salmon, in beef for starters, like things like that, foods like that. But you can also find high quality supplements. So it makes it easy for your body to store that in your muscles so that when you need it, it's there and available and ready for you to use. So there's also a supplement called HMB that's been shown to help with muscle gains. HMB is a metabolite. It's an end product of metabolism. It comes from an essential amino acid called leucine. It's been shown, it has shown, I should say, some promise in promoting muscle and strength gains when combined with resistance training. So, supplementing with HMB, it appears to increase like the muscle synthesis, and it looks like it reduces like the muscle breakdown is what I was understanding. And these two side effects, if you will, are thought to lead to some really nice muscle mass gains. So that those again the increase in muscle synthesis and the reduced muscle breakdown, it helps with your muscle mass gains. But these benefits were mainly noticed with new trainees and the elderly. So if you're in that category, then that's something that you may want to think about, or at least ask about, and it was an interesting study because I was looking into, I was personally looking into it at one point, but anyway, you might be interested in trying HMB if you're new to resistance training again, or if you're an older adult who's trying to retain or maintain, your current muscle mass. But it looks like that, if you're a more experienced trainee, then you might not see much of a difference with or without it. You know what I mean? You might be better off going with the straight creatine or the protein. And here's the thing with muscle building supplements. There are many that claim to boost muscle mass. Only a few are backed by research, and the main ones include, again, protein powders, creatine, and HMB. So, that being said, how much muscle you can gain in a month depends on a lot of things. Again, your sex, your age, and your training experience. All of that plays a role in this equation, So while certain populations can see noticeable muscle gains in just 1 month, achieving significant changes in your body's muscle mass will no doubt take effort and time. So, and since I'm a straight shooter and always like to set expectations the right way, I'll even go on the record and say that it often takes several years rather than months to see true muscle gains. So the best piece of advice that I can give you here is this. Listen up. In order for you to truly maximize your muscle gains, you'll need to follow a consistent, high-intensity resistance training program and stick to it. You need to stick to a proper diet that includes sufficient calories and protein. And I would also suggest you strongly consider taking select supplements, the right ones that work for you. And don't forget, it's always best to consult a qualified healthcare professional before starting any intense resistance training program. That's my disclaimer for you, you know what I mean? So, such as, we're talking about this, something like this, we're talking about building muscle. That would count as an intense resistance training program or a regimen, a workout. Talk to your doctor, talk to your physician. Especially if you have any underlying medical conditions, any ailments, or any other injuries that can potentially put you at risk for, more injury or even, dare I say, death. Be smart about it. Consult with your doctor. Just a word of advice from one dad to another. I want you to be safe. I want you to make progress. I want you to live the best life you can live. I want you to be strong, but I also want you to be safe. All right? And so, with all that said, that's it, you guys. That's my show for today. I hope you found some valuable information here. If nothing else, I hope I entertained you for a few minutes and was able to bring you a little manly sunshine to your day. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to me. It's very much appreciated. On next week's episode, we'll be answering the question, is it safe to exercise in the heat? So fellas, if you've been thinking about working out at the beach or in the park this summer, then next week's episode is for you. And look, your health and fitness goals are easier to achieve than you might think. First and foremost, it's all about getting your mind straight right from the get-go. So I've got a freebie for you called the 10 Dadsplanation Mind Hacks that'll help you whip your mind into shape so that you can turn around and whip your body into shape. If that sounds good to you, head on over to podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks to get your freebie today and start using these 10 hacks to exercise consistently and create the real, lasting results that you're truly after and that you absolutely deserve. That's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Again, that's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Be in the know starting right now. Until our next chat, take care now. Bye.